My name is Rebecca Thomas and this is Student Kitchen. With me today is George Freeman, MP for Mid Norfolk. Our project focus is on saving money, living on a budget and healthy eating. How well were you prepared for independence when you went to university?
Well, morning. Great to be here and great to be supporting you. I was actually reasonably well prepared, but I know many aren't. I had lots of friends at university who had never cooked anything. I was really prepared because my mum's a great cook.
Yeah.
And in fact, my sort of childhood memories are in the kitchen with her, chatting and her saying, "This is how you chop." And my two elder brothers went off to university long before me, so I kind of learnt to cook with them as well. And I'm greedy, so I I think if you love food, you start, opening the fridge door and working out how it works.
Things,
But it's a really serious campaign, this, and I'm really delighted to support, because particularly for young people today, I think the cost of living going up, the cost of food going up, worldwide food prices are rising. When you arrive at university on a really fixed, or college on a fixed budget, it is really hard, actually. And there's some really important things that we can do to help, which we're going to talk about this morning.
Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about the first meal you cooked and how successful it was when you went to university?
God, the first meal, I can't remember. It was probably tuna and sweet corn, because that's what we lived on.
Yeah.
But I do remember, so I grew up on a farm, and I remember my stepfather, when he discovered how much toast I was eating, and how many baked beans, and how much tuna and sweet corn. He came over one day, I was living out in a house in town, and left a sack by the back door with pigeons and rabbits from the farm.
Yeah.
He'd grown up in the 40s and 50s in England and was used to, fending for himself.
Yeah.
And I looked at this sack full of pigeons and rabbits, and my housemate was a vet student. So I said, "Rob, you're going to have to help me." So we gutted and dressed all of this, and then had a massive feast and got all our friends around.
Yeah.
It was like a sort of medieval game feast. We ended up doing roast potatoes and all the vegetables, and it was a great night, actually. A kind of memorable moment. And the important point there is actually, pigeons. If you go down to a traditional butcher's, pigeons are very cheap. And incredibly delicious and really nutritious. And rabbits, there's all sorts of rural game food that you don't necessarily find in the supermarket.
Yeah.
And I love game, and I'm coming from Norfolk, actually. It's sort of part of our heritage. So it's not what you necessarily find in a big city. Yeah. But if you're here at UEA, it's perfectly possible to find.
Yeah, I've never tried pigeon, so
that's delicious.
I might go out and try it.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go out for a meal, what's your favourite food then, if you go out to restaurants and stuff?
Well, it slightly depends where you are. I'm pretty traditional.
Yeah.
For me, sort of favourite, I hate paying really high prices, and I hate fancy, silly portions and really fancy food.
Yeah.
If I go Nouvelle Cuisine, I have to go and have fish and chips afterwards or something.
Yeah.
Actually, favourite places I love eating, we've got two young children, pub on the coast.
Yeah.
I was at the Blue Anchor at Morstan the other day, the Jolly Sailors at Brancaster.
Okay.
For £10 you can have 2 courses and a pint.
Oh wow, that's good.
And I love seafood, so anything kind of smoked seafood starters.
Yeah.
I love oysters, cockles, mussels, smoked mackerel.
Yeah.
I like kind of big strong flavours. And I love game and kind of very traditional English and French. Casseroles, heavy big stews and flavours.
Oh, that sounds yummy. What is your favourite recipe and how often do you cook it?
I hardly cook anymore. But when I was single and student and kind of bachelor years, I used to enjoy cooking.
Yeah.
Top tip for the boys, actually, if you can cook, it's a total winner with the girls. And now I'm married and my wife is a really amazing cook.
Yeah.
So I'm spoiled. She now does it. So what did I used to do? I think I had a signature dish. I used to do skate wing. So it's quite a big thing, and you can get a skate wing from the fishmongers. I used to go to the fish stalls and the market. If you go at the end of the day, they sort of want to get rid of stock. They've got 2 fish skate wings. They don't want to put it on ice and bring it back next Friday. You can often go up to the fishmonger and say, "Look, I'm a skint student. How much for the 2 skate wings?" And they really like it. And they'll give you 2 for 50p or something.
Oh wow.
I used to do skate wings with It's very easy actually. Butter pan fry with capers,
Yeah.
and it looks incredibly sophisticated.
Oh, that's good. There are over 17,000 students at the UEA here in Norwich, and an estimated 2.5 million people enrolled in the United Kingdom's 161 universities. What are your top tips for students eating well and healthy?
It's a really, really good question. It's a long time since I was a student, but very conscious of the cost of living and living on a budget. So here are a few tips I remember. The first thing is actually eating fresh food is much better value than eating processed food. Obviously we all need a treat, but sometimes I think as a student, one used to look at the supermarket and there'd be a plastic wrapped thing with 50p off or 50% off.
Yeah.
And you're drawn by the off, not by the net price. And you can find yourself paying £1.50, £2 for a sort of what looks like really good value, but it's not. If you took the same money into a butcher or into a greengrocer or a fish stall and said, look, what can I get for £2.50?
Yeah.
You get a lot more. So I think actually buying fresh and buying in season. In supermarkets, one of the things they do is it's brilliant. It means you can get mange tout, if you want mange tout, any time of the year. But guess what? They're flown in from Kenya in a plane. Really expensive. If you eat fresh veg from the market or from the fresh bit of the supermarket, it's only there because it's been grown. Prices are much lower. So just being aware of what's in season, you can get really good food for a much lower price.
Yes.
People have sort of forgotten that. Third tip actually is actually cook with recipes. If you look at a recipe and it's got sort of, serve 6.
Yeah.
Very often, something like a stew or a casserole, the ingredients cost about £2.50. Serve 6.
Yeah.
That's really good value.
Yeah.
But, if you're serving 6 and you go down to the supermarket and buy the discounted stuff in plastic, you're not going to get it for £2.50.
No.
So actually cooking is a really good way of getting more for your money, and it's also great fun and sociable, and it doesn't have to be kind of Delia perfect. Get 6 of you around with a few cans of beer and a bottle of wine, and you get to have a laugh and save some money and eat.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is people are aware, I think, of how students, and everyone knows students are struggling. The skint student is a time-honoured tradition. If you ask people, actually, if you go into a supermarket, supermarket's harder, go into a butcher or a greengrocer and say, I've only got £3, what would be good for a meal? People really like it. And actually they'll open up and go, well, I'll tell you what, I'll chuck in a couple of these.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
So eat in season, buy fresh, ask, go into a shop where there's somebody actually, a traditional butcher, red and white stripy apron, and ask. You'd be amazed in life. It's a good student tip generally. If you ask, you'd be amazing what you might get.
I have to admit that I'm one of those people that don't tend to go to the butchers and stuff, but I think, and of some of my friends as well, I think there's quite a lot of students that aren't aware of pricing with going to actually, like you said, going to the butchers and stuff, then going to a shopping market and buying something from there that's already just made and stuff like that. So I think people aren't aware of it, and that's a big problem for people, young people anyway. I know I'm not always fully aware of pricing, so it's good that.
The other thing is actually get a fridge. Invest in a fridge is a really good thing, because then you can cook for, if there's only 2 of you, well, cook the recipe for 6, and guess what? You've just got 2 more meals. Yeah. And actually, I'm a huge fan of eating cold. I think a lot of things are far better cold, actually. Yeah. I mean, cold shepherd's pie as a hangover cure.
Never tried it.
Oh, perfect, So make a hangover, make a shepherd's pie for 6. Yeah. Have 2 portions hot, and then you've got 2 hangover cures in the fridge.
Oh, I'll do that. Brilliant. Okay, so you formed the Buy Local Norfolk. Can you tell us just a little bit about that and what it means to the businesses of Norfolk?
Yeah, Buy Local it's a great campaign. It's actually run by the Federation of Small Business here, and it's to encourage really people to do what we've been talking about today and think about the local suppliers of food. And people are busy, we all are, and it's easy to rush to the supermarket and just do all the shopping. Yeah. But up and down, particularly here in Norfolk, there are people producing organic food, local cheeses, local veg, farm shops. They're not making huge amounts of money, profit margins are quite low. It's delicious, nutritious, and you're supporting someone in the local community. Yeah. So you get to feel good about spending your money as well. And buy local is really to encourage people to think about where their food particularly, but actually it applies to everything, where it's come from.
Right.
And if you're buying a present for somebody, or Christmas birthday present, godchildren, I think it's lovely if you bought something somewhere you were.
Yeah.
Amazon are amazing, and you can get stuff on the internet. But if you've actually been there, and you can write on the card, I bought this for you in a great farm shop. Bought this for you in a local shop then you're supporting something more than just the shop. You're supporting the idea of a community. So that's what buy local is all about.
Yeah, I find when I go to the local shops in my town that you get to talk to a lot of, it's more of a community spirit, you get to know a lot of people around the town, and you make friendship with people that are in different businesses, and you get to know one another, and it's also like you get to communicate a lot more, and it's just a nice friendlier way of going to your shops as well as just going around or just internet shopping, so you don't really get to talk to anyone. So
exactly, and in food, the sort of theme of this interview, of course, if you buy local, you're going to get healthier. It won't have travelled as far. Now, here's a really shocking statistic for you: motorway service station sandwiches.
Yeah.
Do you know the average age of a sandwich consumed in Britain?
No.
It's 72 hours. The vast majority of sandwiches, not the really top end fresh ones, but the vast majority are frozen. They're made 3 or 4 days ago. That's why they're a bit soggy.
Yeah.
Britain eats more sandwiches than any other nation on earth. 72 hours average age, that's 3 days.
Yeah.
That's the average. So that means there are sandwiches out there that are 6 or 7 days old.
Nice.
So buy local is also about saying, you're going to put it in your mouth. You kind of want to know where it's come from.
Definitely.
Quite good to buy something from someone you've shaken hands with and spoken to.
You want to stay away from the sandwiches now. Stay away from them particular sandwiches. I've seen on TV that you've been promoted by David Cameron. What is this, and what do you have to do?
I've been made a UK trade envoy. I'm not a member of the government, but it's a huge honour really. It's a chance to bang the drum for the UK and to support exports around the world.
Right.
I've come to Parliament having been in small business. I've been in Parliament 3 years.
Right.
And I had a 15-year career here in East Anglia, Cambridge, Norwich, starting to helping to start small companies and raise money for little high growth businesses. So really I'm going to use the trade envoy role to bang the drum for this region, for the eastern region.
Yeah.
I worked in biomedical research and agriculture, so we've got some incredibly strong companies here, and I want to be their ambassador really and go out and open up markets for them.
Oh, yeah.
And also to really make sure that government is helping little companies with exports. Very often government finds it easier to deal with big companies.
Yeah.
You've got big corporate affairs departments and government departments. But if you're a little company, 5 or 6 people, government's got to find a way of working for you that's a bit different. And that was my background, so I'm going to try and be a voice for small companies.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. In today's Mercury, I read you assisted Banham Poultry. How do you think this will help the local economy?
Oh, this is really, really good news for our area. Banham Poultry are my biggest employer in the constituency. Right. They employ just over 1,000 people. A traditional, great old Norfolk business. Norfolk's very strong, obviously, in the poultry. Yeah. Everyone thinks Bird and Matthews, but there are lots of poultry businesses. Yeah. The poultry business works on very low margins, so they're selling hundreds of thousands of chickens and turkeys every year, often making pence, literally pence on each bird. Yeah. So if the cost of feed goes up and the cost of meat doesn't, the margin has just disappeared. If as a business you're not sitting on cash, you're going to go bankrupt. Yeah. So they operate in a really competitive market. They're Attleborough's biggest employer. Yeah. Most of them know them in the iconic factory by the railway. They've just really, the last 2 or 3 years, they've invested, they've done really well under new management, and they've just won a really prestigious contract to supply Morrisons, who pride themselves on local supply and high quality supply. Oh, that's good, yeah. So it's a huge news for us because it secures the future of Banham as our biggest employer. Yeah. 4,000 houses coming to Attleborough over the next 20 years. Yeah. People have got to have jobs, and the growth of businesses like Banham is really important. But even better, I've been helping Banham to get grants to relocate to a new site, a cutting-edge, state-of-the-art, low-carbon poultry unit, and that'll release that site by the railway station.
Oh, okay.
And actually tonight I'm launching a press conference and a summit to look at whether we can use that site
Yeah.
and as part of a redevelopment of the station to create a really iconic gateway to Attleborough, hanging baskets, bike racks, fast broadband, internet
Yeah.
cafe,
Oh wow.
somewhere that tourists could come in, discover Attleborough.
Yeah.
There'll probably be a supermarket there, so people come in and do their weekly shopping. And then
Yeah.
a brown sign, heritage trail, come into the old town centre, down the cobbles, town hall, visit the market.
Yeah.
Somehow we've got to make it easy for people to come into our beautiful town centres.
Yeah.
And of course do their convenience shopping in the supermarket.
Yeah.
And then go and spend the extra bob or two in the pub and
Yeah.
the market and keep the tradition alive.
Yeah. And Attleborough's a really nice town, so.
Yeah, it is. And I think the railway station and that line is a real asset for us.
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to the subject of buying local.
Yeah.
We want to get American tourists flying into Stansted on a fast train through Cambridge and Ely and Thetford
Yeah.
to Wyndham and Attleborough, hop off, jump on the steam train, go up to Dereham, spend a
Yeah.
few bob in a pub, buy local, support the heritage, and that's part of the opportunity for this area is to become a place that people want to come because of the quality of life and the quality of the produce.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, thank you, George Freeman, for taking time out today to talk to us. It's really great. Thank you so much.
That's absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you.
And good luck with the campaign.
Thank you.